Hi, One SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Tuesday, April 12th, and we are going to do a call right now with SBR contributing baseball handicapper Ian Cameron, taking a look at the overnight lines for the games that go tomorrow, Wednesday, April 13th. So we have a full slate of overnight lines here. Obviously, by tomorrow, these lines probably will have moved significantly, at least some of them. But I always love looking at overnight lines, and if you can beat the moves, that can be equal a lot of value in baseball. Ian Cameron, the first game that caught my eye, Texas at Seattle, right? A.J. Griffin starting for Texas, and without getting into it too deep, I'm not a buyer on A.J. Griffin right now, right? He's kind of a fly ball pitcher with diminished stuff. Taijuan Walker, a little wild in his first start, always due for an implosion at any time, but in general, I think he's got live stuff that we can believe in and rely on, and it's not a huge line. I'm thinking that it's already gotten bet up from minus 132 on the opener to about 136, 139. What do you think about Seattle on the overnight line?
You know what? Taijuan Walker, Pete, is a guy that I made a lot of money with last year. I mean, he came on very strong, particularly down the stretch of the season last year, and really went on a tear for this Seattle Mariners rotation. And he's a guy with a ton of upside. He's a guy that can absolutely strike him out. He's loaded with that kind of ability. And when you look at the kind of season that he had for the Seattle Mariners last year, things just really came together for him, particularly late in the campaign. He's a guy that definitely has a ton of upside with this Seattle Mariners rotation. He went through a stretch there, in June and July in particular. He was just dominant, ratcheting up the strikeouts, holding teams to 3 runs or less on a regular basis. I still think at times he fights consistency a little bit, but what I do like is his control and his command for the most part has been really spot on. I mean, he's limited the walks. He's managed to ratchet up the strikeouts. That's always something you like to see from a young pitcher. He certainly throws hard, and he's a guy that definitely, when you look at this Seattle rotation, he could be right up there with King Felix in this Seattle rotation for a long time to come in terms of serious potential. His first start of the season against the Oakland Athletics, his pitch count wasn't what you'd want it to be, 100 pitches in 6 innings, not exactly economical. So for that reason, he had to come out of the game a little bit earlier than I'm sure he wanted. 2 runs on 7 hits and 6 innings allowed in that game against Oakland, but still a solid enough start. And maybe you'd think here he's got a chance to build on that solid first outing, because Texas is a little bit banged up right now. They've got some key injuries. Josh Hamilton, of course, hasn't played yet this season. Shin-Soo Choo recently gone on the DL with a strained right calf. He's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks of action. So this Texas lineup has certainly had some bite taken out of it due to injuries. And Taijuan Walker, nothing wrong with his first start. You'd like to see him maybe work deeper into the game, be a little bit more economical, but certainly I think he's got the chance to do that moving forward, maybe as early as this start.
Okay, so does that mean you agree with me or not?
In terms of Seattle, yes. I mean, Seattle's in this situation here, I would agree.
All right, then another game that's interesting, right? Carlos Carrasco. Now, everyone's high on this guy for good reason. He had a subpar first start at home against Boston, gave up 3 home runs, but here he's going to have, an easier assignment at Tampa Bay. Feels like he's in line here for a big bounce back, and the line isn't that high. 104, minus 104, minus 105. The highest line is minus 110. Maybe we take a shot with Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Carrasco definitely is a guy with some upside and some potential, but the issue that I have here, Pete, with the Cleveland Indians is their ability to hit left-handed pitching. It's been a major issue for them in recent seasons. They do have a little bit more of an ability right now to be able to put some more bats that can be effective in their lineup against left-handed pitching, but it's still something I want to see early in the campaign to see if this Cleveland lineup can put together stronger at-bats and more production against southpaws, particularly early in the campaign. Drew Smyly is actually a guy that, I opened the door a little bit for him to be a solid contributor to this Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he's not too shabby. I think he goes into the not too shabby category for a crafty lefty.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to, I guess, cut him some slack to some extent with the way he pitched in his first start at Toronto Blue Jays lineup that's absolutely tremendous against left-handed pitching.
Totally.
Crushed lefties last season.
Totally, he gets a pass.
Certainly. Yeah, exactly. And they have the potential, I think, Toronto to be just as strong against the southpaws this season, and they certainly showed that against Smyly. 5 runs on 6 hits, 6.2 innings for Smyly against that potent Blue Jays lineup, particularly when it comes to hitting left-handed pitchers. Cleveland doesn't have that same potency whatsoever against lefties. So maybe there's a better opportunity for Drew Smyly to bounce back in this particular start. Carlos Carrasco, on the other hand, right-handed starter, a guy that really pitched pretty well for Cleveland down the stretch of the 2015 2015 season. I mean, when you look at his last 9 starts of 2015, he surrendered 4 runs or less in all 9 of those starts. So pretty impressive stuff from Carrasco. His first outing at home against Boston wasn't exactly tremendous by any stretch. 4 runs allowed on 7 hits and 5 innings of work. 3 home runs allowed. That's a bit of a concern. The long ball, a bit of an issue for him against Boston. But you're pitching here at the Trop against a Tampa Bay Rays lineup that's not exactly loaded with home run hitters. They do have Corey Dickerson's a big addition in terms of being able to hit the long ball. I think he's going to help in the long run. Certainly Longoria still has some home run potential, but Steven Souza Jr.'s actually hit a few home runs in the past. So this is a Tampa Bay team that probably can hit the long ball a bit better this year in 2016 than they have in the past. That would be a concern here for Carrasco, but you do like that he's kept the walks down for the most part. He's been able to get some strikeouts, some swings and misses. That's a good sign. And again, going from Boston to Tampa Bay, you would think a little bit of a lighter lineup with all due respect to the improvements. And the Rays have made some improvements to their lineup. With all due respect to that, I still think I have them graded out as a stronger lineup top to bottom than Tampa Bay. So maybe you give Carrasco a chance to bounce back here in this particular outing. Definitely when you look at the price in this game, Pete, in terms of Cleveland here, near even money against Tampa Bay, might be worth a shot here, depending on what happens in the first game with the bullpen scenario. But I think more than anything else, we might see a lower scoring game here. Maybe a chance for Carrasco to bounce back. And Smiley now facing Cleveland instead of Toronto. Maybe a chance for Smiley to maybe settle in a little bit pitching here at Tropicana Field. So I probably would lean a little bit to a lower scoring game and go under the total here in this one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. And then one other total I have to ask about that jumped out at me. I don't think they turned on the humidor yet at Coors because San Diego scored 0 runs in their first 3 games of the year. Then they go into Colorado and score 29 runs alone in the first 2 games, and we have a pitching matchup that looks pretty scary for tomorrow, right? Jake Beebe, he doesn't have it anymore. I think we can agree on that. No need to go into it any further. Just doesn't have it. He might get crushed. And Jordan Lyles is one of the guys who got crushed by San Diego at home. San Francisco has, I think we can comfortably say, a better lineup than San Diego. He might get crushed again. Total right now in the overnight line, 11.5. What do you think about the over there?
That's a high total, Peter, but I can't play anything but over the total in that particular matchup between the Giants and Rockies. One of the biggest successes I've had in Major League Baseball early in the first week from my own personal betting standpoint, Peter's betting San Francisco over the total. Yeah. People are sleeping on this San Francisco Giants lineup. They're not striking out very much. There's not a single superstar slugger in this lineup, but what do they have, Peter? They've got 1 through 9 batters that quality bats, consistent. They'll take some pitches, work some counts, try to get on base via a walk if they can coax one out of the starter. I mean, this is just a lineup that really doesn't beat themselves. I mean, it's been very impressive to see. And, they're scoring runs in bunches. They've already had 3 games this season where they've scored 9 runs or more in a game. They did it against Milwaukee. They did it twice against the LA Dodgers, which was really impressive over the weekend. Don't sleep on this Giants lineup. I've been very, very impressed. 1 through 9. Denard Span, what a great pickup as a leadoff hitter in the offseason. He's made a boatload of difference for the San Francisco lineup, getting a great quality leadoff hitter. Joe Panik can get the job done at the plate. Buster Posey, one of the better hitting catchers in Major League Baseball. Hunter Pence, even with his awkward swinging style and his stance in the box, is a solid hitter. Brandon Belt, Matt Duffy, Brandon Crawford, just some solid hitters that are very good and take quality at bats more often than not. So the San Francisco lineup, I think the betting markets, Peter, they're sleeping a little bit on it because of the fact that San Francisco for years has been more pitching dominated team and won their previous World Series on basically, timely hitting, but more so the pitching aspect and the defensive aspect of their team. And as a result, you're getting cheap totals to bet San Francisco over with right now. You're probably getting cheaper lines in terms of from a side perspective to support the San Francisco Giants, and as a result, when it comes to this San Francisco team right now, I'm looking to either support them or play some overs with this improved lineup with the San Francisco Giants team. The problem is from a side perspective here, Peter, you mentioned it, is Jake Peavy's on the mound here for the San Francisco Giants. And Jake Peavy is a guy that you have to think is over the hill and the best days of his career long behind him. I mean, in his first start against the LA Dodgers at AT&T Park in San Fran, it was not a great outing for him. 4 runs on 10 hits and just 5 innings of work. Only 3 strikeouts in those 5 innings. His control was okay, but still, he's a guy that was just giving up hits left and right. And getting hit around pretty hard by the LA Dodgers in that start. He's not a guy I have pegged for great success here against the Colorado Rockies. His one start at Coors Field last year against Colorado, 3 runs on 4 hits and 5.2 innings of work. That's not terrible by any stretch, but that first start that he had against the Dodgers really does concern me going to Coors Field, a bandbox here against this Colorado lineup. But Jordan Lyles, on the other hand, he had a brief stint, I guess you could say, early in his days with the Rockies where he pitched really well at Coors Field, but those days long behind him. He struggled late last season pitching in this ballpark, and it carried over to his first start against the San Diego Padres. I mean, San Diego's offense is not exactly prolific by any stretch, and yet still pounded out 5 runs on 7 hits and just 3.1 innings against Lyles last week. So that's definitely a red flag for me for Jordan Lyles facing this well-balanced, very patient San Francisco lineup. Check the weather, obviously. You should do that with every game, especially when betting totals in Major League Baseball. You want to get a sense of the temperature, the wind direction, etc. Is the wind blowing in, the wind blowing out, etc. That goes a long way to factoring in which way to bet totals in baseball. But from my standpoint, totals-wise in this game, it's a high total at 11.5, but it's a high total for a reason. The only way I could look, Peter, I'm with you, is to look over the total in this one.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Ian Cameron. All right, well, those are the first 3 things that jump out at me from the overnight lines. Definitely San Francisco on the team total over, San Francisco on the over. Thinking about Seattle as a modest home favorite, and Cleveland, Tampa Bay under, which right now is 7. Is there anything else from the overnight lines that jumps out at you as something you might be attracted to betting?
As I'm looking at it right now, the Cincinnati-Chicago series tomorrow night, we've got Alfredo Simon. Apparently he doesn't want to be called Simon. He started out his career Alfredo Simon. Now it's Alfredo Simon. I don't understand these guys that change their
I call him Simon. That's a huge line, though, minus 215 on the overnight.
It is. It's a huge line. And I want to bring it up because, John Lackey this is going to be a big start. I want to observe this start for John Lackey. Maybe not so much to get involved betting wise right now in this game, but watch for John Lackey to whether he bounces back in this start or not, because he did not have a very good first outing with the Chicago Cubs against the Arizona Diamondbacks. He allowed 6 runs on 8 hits and a pair of homers as well in just 6 innings against the Diamondbacks at Chase Field last week. But you have to factor in the stadium conditions in that start. The roof was open. The ball was flying out of the ballpark at Chase Field. So maybe a chance now, colder conditions, more comfortable pitching surroundings for Lackey here at Wrigley Field. Maybe a chance for him to bounce back against a lineup that he had great success against last season. I mean, he held the Reds to 11 runs in 34 innings against them throughout the entire course of last year when he was with the Cardinals, so he faced them a lot. 31 strikeouts, just 8 walks in those 34 innings pitched against Cincinnati. Simon, on the other hand, he went over to the American League, was with the Tigers last season, 5.05 ERA. He's just not a guy that I look at as even an average starting pitcher at the major leagues. He's a fringe arm major league pitcher at best right now. I mean, and he's definitely not a guy that I would trust in this particular matchup. And Alfredo Simon, I know he's back in the National League, not quite as potent lineups up and down as the American League, but he's more of a bet against pitcher for me, Alfredo Simon, right now, until I see signs of him pitching at a more consistent level. If anything in this game, if Lackey struggles again, you could get an over the total out of this game, but even more than that, maybe you look at the Chicago Cubs team total over in this particular matchup. That might be a way to go. The Cincinnati bullpen has been a dumpster fire, an absolute dumpster fire. One of the worst bullpens already early in the new Major League Baseball season. I mean, we saw it last night. The Reds bullpen comes in and blows a 3-1 lead against the Cubs, and they end up losing 5-3 to the Chicago Cubs because their bullpen just can't hold the lead, can't get the job done. And I don't trust Cincinnati's bullpen to get outs in the latter innings of games against potent lineups and the better lineups in Major League Baseball. The Cubs certainly have a lineup in that category, and it could be another tough evening for the Cincinnati bullpen, especially if Alfredo Simon continues a pattern that he had last season of not being able to work deep into baseball games.
Okay, as Mama call him Simone, I'm going to call him Simone. Ian Cameron, thanks for your thoughts on the overnight lines for Wednesday, April 13th.
All right, thanks, Pete. Enjoy the games and good luck.